Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This is David Manny, aka Big Money Manny. Welcome to our Big Money Manny book club. This is Man Up, continuing on with our reading. Actually, we started off chapter 4 today, and what a blessed day, guys. Just finishing up an awesome week, and it was a great week for us, great week for us in business, and things are on the up and up, and just looking forward to some incredible opportunities coming our way. But thank God for all you guys being here today and reading in with us. If you don't know what this is a book club. It's dedicated to self-improvement. It's dedicated to working on our mindset. And what better way to do that than to read what people call self-help books or self-improvement books. It's all about improving the mindset, guys. It's all about working on ourselves. Become more so you can have more, so you can do more, right? So, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to go ahead and check in. Give me a sound check, just a second. All right. We are good to go, guys. Hope you guys had a blessed week. Looking forward to another great one on the way. Shout out to my wife. It was her birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, honey. I love you. And for everybody who's brand new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Over here, we're working on becoming better, being better individuals, learning from awesome people who have done some stuff in their lives, so we can speed up our process and skip a whole lot of heartache. You know what I mean? So we are starting today, chapter 4. It's called Fix the Leaks. I started off with a little short video, a little tester, just to see how this works on the mobile, on the phone. I didn't like it, so we're going to go ahead and start this thing off right. All right, so we learned chapter 3, great information, and introduced us to becoming the fighter jet, which is a concept from Bezos Kulian that he uses to describe people. You're either a crop duster or a fighter jet. You got to fight to become a fighter jet. Crop dusters just don't make it big, and if it's not your thing to do something big, to have more, to do more, to become more, make more money, have more reach, have more impact, then maybe this is not for you. All right, but this is all about things that we can do once we get to the next level. And whatever it is that you're trying to do, if you're trying to grow a business, if you're just trying to work on yourself, you're trying to become a better leader, you want to fight to become a fighter jet. You want to fight to leave behind your old crop duster ways that don't do much for you, that have proven to keep people from attaining success. And so this is all about this next chapter right here. It's called Fix the Leaks. All right, I love his chapter names. He chooses, different names. I mean, I don't usually see chapters named the way he likes to name his. One was get your shit together. The fighter jet. I just missed the word. Anyway, now we're talking about fixing the leak. So pretty much taking a look at yourself, taking inventory on you, and figuring out what doesn't work, right? And so we're going to go ahead and get into it. So he starts off just kind of analyzing himself and saying that he wasn't the leader that he thought he would be. Right. So 2013, there were some holes in his canoe. The business wasn't working right. And he said he just knew it in his bones that he wasn't a good leader. And when he first started off the business, he started off with himself, a business partner, and one employee. And business started to grow. And what he didn't know, or what he figured out, is that he needed to start growing internally so that he could lead this business the proper way. Right. So it says for years, he's blamed everyone. Every time something has gone wrong, he's blamed somebody, right? And it takes a lot of guts for a person to say that, especially a man. But this book is entitled "Man Up," so we're gonna learn little things that we got to do to start manning up. And one of the things that he realized is that you got to come to terms with what's wrong with you, what's keeping you from becoming the best and having the best. And so he figured out that every time something went wrong, he would blame everybody, right? But now he has just realized, and this is his own words, but I now realize that I was the one fucking it all up. All right, so he says, like, reading on, like most business owners, I thought I was a good leader, but the reality was that I was poor, very poor, and a very ineffective one. And it all started with Fit Boot Camp when it was me, my partner, and one employee. At first, it was simple, it was slower and more manageable, but business grew and got more complicated. And I had to hire more employees. I felt the pain of pressure of leadership, and that's something I have experience in as business is kind of, it's almost back to square one, as far as manpower goes. We're rebuilding our business. We came out of COVID, we're back in person, and so we're rebuilding the business, we're rebuilding our team. A lot of people left, right? But it's not really square one because of the information that I've gained, what I've learned. I've grown as a leader. My wife has grown as a leader. And so we're kind of not really a square one. We know how to rebuild it better, faster, stronger, right? And with the right people. So he says here that, at first it was simple and then it started to grow. And that's one of the things about business. Everybody wants to be that successful business owner. But what you fail to realize is, number one, the work that goes into it. And number two, the person you have to become once your business grows. If your business grows and you don't, that business doesn't stay around for very long, right? And so he says, as business grew, things got more complicated. I had to hire more employees, and I felt the pain and pressure of leadership, right? And that's huge because that is so true. Like, when business grows, you need to become a leader. You got to learn how to delegate. You got to learn how to put people in position, and get them in, good standing so that they can find success, and so that you can manage them and as a whole have a successful team and have a successful business, right? And so he says that instead of learning how to lead a team of success, I did the exact opposite of what an effective leader should do. Now, he talked about a friend, I think it was Kevin, someone that came into his business and had all the tools that they needed to have become his right-hand man. But because he wasn't a great leader, that person fell through the cracks. All right. And so he says, instead of learning how to lead a team to success, I did the exact opposite of what an effective leader should do. I avoided responsibility. I chose not to grow as a leader as my business grew. Instead, I showed up late to the meetings. I always was unprepared. I didn't correct, mentor, or give back to my employees who needed it, right? And he says, I avoided the conversations that deemed uncomfortable. Okay, so this I resonate with because I've been under some leadership that they just weren't the strongest at times. And as I was growing, leaders above me were not, and it kind of went sour, And so, it did go sour. He's saying kinda, it went sour, because there wasn't growth going on different levels, multiple levels. And so, what happens is that can ruin the momentum that is gained amongst peers, amongst leaders, and the lower levels as well. Right. And so he says he avoided the conversations that he deemed uncomfortable. And one of the things I learned from my coaches is that you got to do the nasty. You got to do the things that are uncomfortable. You got to, go and see clients when they're not answering the phone, or people are that are working with you on your team. If they stop showing up, you got to show up to them. Go to their house, figure out what's going on, show them that you care, have that personal touch. It's very uncomfortable. Even growing business, finding leads is very uncomfortable. You got to talk to people that you don't know. Introduce yourself, find those leads. Cold market prospecting is very uncomfortable. What we learn in business is that you have to go through those uncomfortable things. And when you're part of the team, or when you're growing your team, or when you have to be accountable to your leaders, it can be very uncomfortable. And I'll be honest, there's times that I don't want to call my coach, but part of the deal is that I got to call him every night. And it's great that if you have a partner to work with, because there's times I don't want to call and she gets me to call, right? And so it's just kind of like that. But you got to go through the uncomfortable, and the rewards are there, right? And so he says, I pretended that everything was under control. I assumed that everyone would self-manage and get their work done. I kept my feelings bottled up until they turned into resentment, and resentment turned into adversarial relationships, and that led to a toxic work environment where everyone walked on eggshells and no one felt safe to voice their opinions. I've been in that situation with a leader who, well, we butted heads, and it was just kind of out of nowhere for me. You know what I mean? I wasn't expecting it. But what we figured out later on is that there were feelings that were bottled up instead of being communicated, and it led to resentment. One day, if you're that kind who bottles up your feelings and don't express it, if you don't communicate it, what you got to have communication in your business. We learned that. I think we're going to touch on it again. And it says that those feelings turn into resentment, and resentment turned to adversarial relationships, right? You start to go at each other's throats, and that you can't have that in a team. That just doesn't work, right? And that led to a toxic work environment where everyone walked on eggshells and no one felt safe to voice their concerns. You cannot have a business like that, guys. You cannot. It just doesn't work. To have everybody walking on eggshells, I mean, what is the point? You guys got to disperse that and figure out what's going to work. Communication is the key. And yes, it is uncomfortable. You got to talk to people and share your feelings, share your thoughts. And maybe you're going to piss some people off. Maybe you're going to make some people upset. Maybe you're going to get some people that disagree with you. But that's part of growth. That's part of growing your business. That's part of finding success, is having those uncomfortable conversations. And you can't avoid them. You cannot and still be successful. There's no way. You just can't avoid a conversation that just because you feel it's uncomfortable and feel like you're going to find success. I mean, you can try all you want. It's just not going to happen. And even if you guys are able to mesh together enough to move forward and just keep working, there's going to be resentment. And as it says right here, resentment will turn to adversarial relationships. You're going to hate each other. And the last thing you want to do is have partners that you hate working with. It just sucks the joy out of it. It sucks the energy out of you. You don't wake up passionate about going to work and doing what you got to do and loving what you do. You lose all that when you have those adversarial relationships. And I've been there, and it sucks. And I wish that, and I wish no one had to deal with those kind of relationships. It's unnecessary. So, all these things come from avoiding that conversation, especially if you're, the leader. If the leader is uncomfortable, I mean, don't expect the team to step up and say, hey, we got to open up communications. It's very rare it's going to happen. And if you do have somebody on your team, man, you better count your blessings, man. You better, take care of that person. If you have somebody in your team just like that. He says, a good example, by early 2013, I knew my business was struggling and that I had lost control of my employees and the direction that Fit Body Bootcamp was headed. So I hired a consulting company to help us. They were supposed to help create systems for my new franchise business. We were paying them $22,000 a month. That's a lot of money. $22,000 a month for their help to create systems for our new franchise. Money that we did not have available, $22,000 a month, and we went into debt to obtain. He said, this was my Hail Mary to save the company. Right. And I was willing to go further into debt if it was going to save us. Right. So he was willing to make the sacrifice, $20,000 a month for this consulting company to come in and save the company. But here's what he did wrong. He said the consultants were good guys and they tried to do the best they could. They came in very motivated. The problem was that I kept pulling them into everything that wasn't their core focus. All right, so he started to use them for things that were not part of the job description. All right, so part of me assumed that they could do better than me. I quickly, sorry, He says they were supposed to fix our systems and operations, but I asked them to help with everything from sales to marketing to traffic generation. So they were supposed to come in and help develop systems for the company to operate better, but he wanted to use them to do other things, right? He said I asked them to help with everything from sales to marketing to traffic generation. Man, so he was pretty much trying to get them to run the business for him. He said essentially I tried to turn them into a proxy CEO and the leader that I wasn't. And it's because I wasn't willing to look hard in the mirror and own the business. That's huge right there, guys. My coach Mario Munoz talked about that today. He said well, the reason why a lot of people fail to recruit in their business is because it forces you to look in the mirror. It forces you to take inventory of yourself and realize what are the things that you are struggling in, that you are failing in, that are keeping you from growing your business. And he says right here, essentially, I tried to turn them into my proxy CEO, the leader that I wasn't. And it was because it's because I wasn't willing to look hard in the mirror and own the business. So he was trying to pass on those difficult situations over to a consulting group and have them run the business for him because he said they were the leader that I wasn't. Part of me assumed that they could do better than me. I quickly learned that there's really no white knight who's going to gallop in and save your business. You are it. You are it. I was it, and I refused to accept it. It's huge, guys. So soon the consultants started slacking off because I had put so much on their plate that was outside of their zone of genius. And since I wasn't asking for or tracking the results, they simply started to lower their efforts to match mine. That's huge. See, as a leader, you got to step up your game and you got to match your responsibility, match your interest. You got to set the standard, right? So that they can come up to your level. If you want a team to perform, you got to perform as a leader and watch how your team steps up into that position, right? They'll step up to your level. Right. So he says, and I simply wasn't asking or tracking the results. So they simply started to lower their efforts to match mine. They were supposed to be at our office a set number of hours on a set number of days. That started to fall apart quickly. They made excuses and I accepted them. We were paying them enough that they wanted to keep the contract, but I had led them badly and I had spoiled their chances to help me. In hindsight, I can't blame them for slacking off. I blame myself for not giving them clarity of key performance metrics to strive for. I'll read that again. I blame myself for not giving them clarity or key performance metrics to strive for. So letting them know exactly what you want for them, what you want from them, and what kind of production you want in your company out of the work of these consultants. So he said because he didn't give them that bar to reach to as a leader, they simply didn't perform. They got just as complacent as the other employees that we had. And he says this was the byproduct of poor leadership on my part and nothing else. That's taking responsibility, right? So he says, let's see the thing that's the thing. When you get good people and you put them in an environment with low standards, few expectations, and poor leadership, they begin to slip. Didn't the Bible say that bad company corrupts good character? It says when you take good people and you put them in an environment, right? The power of the environment, the power of the company you keep, the power of the people you put around you. You put them in an environment with low standards, few expectations, and poor leadership, and watch how those good people will start to slip. Put them in the wrong environment, see what happens. That's why it's so important to have location, to know where your kids are going to go to school, know where you're going to live, because location and the environment in it affects people. I saw that first with Nick, and now Nick is the guy we're talking about earlier, and now I see it with these consultants. And since we were paying them more than $20,000 a month, it was too painful for me to avoid. My mantra came back. It's time to man up, Bezos. It's time to man up and part ways with these guys, and you're going to go out, or you're going to go out of business. So I gave them their 30-day notice, and I took matters into my own hands, and it wasn't easy at that. Untangling the relationship was a pain for everyone involved, but I had to do it. He says, I had set a bad precedent as a leader, and now I had to fix it or go out of business and file bankruptcy. It says, you can't outsource leadership. I tried. All right. It says, I've seen others try. It says, you are the leader, like it or not. You're running your company. You're either going to guide them to greatness by taking ownership and risking and rising to the opportunity and becoming an effective leader, or you're going to take your business into a shitter like I did by doing nothing, ignoring and avoiding your role and responsibility, and attempting to hand off the leadership to someone else. Since I've had a lot of time to think about my bad leadership, try to develop into capable leader and study models of success. Since then, I've had a lot of time to think about my bad leadership. I've tried to develop into a capable leader and study models of success. He says, for me, a big part of fixing my leadership issues began when I was able to diagnose why I was weak and ineffective. I took notes. I talked to people around me. I went to masterminds. I attended seminars and read books on the topics. Hello. That's why we're having this book club, because there's people that need to improve. And so we gotta tap into these books. If somebody takes the time to write their life story on a book, you best read it and gain all that knowledge, right? And to help you out best you can. So, and I came up with what I know now to be the 7 deadly sins of weak and ineffective leaders. Some typos there. After studying, so this is what he did. He figured out what was wrong with him and his leadership skills. And then he went to work. He took notes. He started studying. He said he started talking to people around him. Asking people questions is the quick way to get from point A to point B. I went to masterminds, right? So going to meetings, surrounding yourself with like-minded people that want to get better. I attended seminars and I read books on the topics. And I came up with what I now know are the 7 deadly sins of weak and effective leadership. Number 1, poor communication. That is one of the biggest things that you got to have to be an effective leader is communication. One clear sign of an ineffective leadership is poor communication. Leaders who are unable to clearly share their vision and communicate problems and solutions and communicate recognitions effectively tend to have high employee turnover, right? And so they have low morale in the workplace and a poor culture. Why? Because they can't communicate their problems, their solutions. They can't recognize people in front of people, right? They can't recognize it effectively. They tend to have a high turnover. People quit on them. They go find other jobs. They have low morale. Nobody's happy at the job, and nobody's happy at your workplace. Nobody's happy on your team. Watch how the performance is going to be affected, right? And there's a poor culture. Number 2, lack of action and follow through. It says here, leaders who do not have a bias toward action and follow through are among the most ineffective. Wow. So because of lack of action, you're out there doing the work, and lack of follow through, right? Following up with your people, your clients, your employees, your teammates, right? They are the most ineffective, right? They expect others to do the work. They make the decisions and call the shots while they stay isolated and inactive. So all they're doing is running their mouth and calling shots and having people do things, but they're not doing things themselves. It says here, indecision or lack of action has cost entrepreneurs more money, time, and market share than making the wrong decision. Wow. Oh, that's huge right there, man. So the lack of action is worse than making the wrong choice. So he's saying making the wrong choice is better than not making a choice at all, pretty much. Right. Number 3, disconnection. Keeping isolated and disconnecting from your team, business partners, clients, and customers is a sure way to erode respect, loyalty, and confidence in your leadership. It's so true. When your leader is not with you, when he's not around you, when he doesn't make himself presentable, when he doesn't make himself approachable, people lose respect. That's how it is. So as a leader, you got to stay connected with your people. You got to be in contact with them. If not physical, then, verbal, send them text messages, say hello. All right. It's a simple little thing. Words go a long way, guys, with people. Words go a long way. Right. So you can keep planting seeds in them, and just by speech, it's really that simple. Number 4, weak character and integrity. Leaders who lack character and integrity will never have trust or likability by those who work for them or by those with whom they do business. This is so true. Miles Monroe talks about character, and I love his definition of character. A person of character is a person who keeps to his values, and they don't change it for anybody. And because someone has real character, they don't bend, they don't sacrifice their values, they don't compromise when it comes to their values. They have integrity, right? And so, one of the biggest, my biggest values in life, one of the things I want to take care of, and help this. I'm really big on abortion. I'm against it. I'm really against abortion. And so there's a lot of decisions that I have made because of my values when it comes to stopping abortion. Right. And there's just some people that didn't understand that at first. Right. But because I have character, I don't bend those values for anybody. I'm sorry. I keep to my values. They do affect my decisions, my decision making. They do affect my attitude. And so, because I'm a person of character, right? I don't bend that. But he says people who lack that character, they lack integrity. People will lose that trust for them, and they will not have there will be no likability from those who they do business with. People will do business with you, but they'll hate you. They won't like you because of your lack of character. All right. And so that was number 4. All right. There he goes. Weak character or integrity. Right. They might say something, but they bend the rules, for certain situations. They might say they stand for some, but, given the circumstance, you might see them bend the other way. All right. Number 5, a negative perception of others. Right. If ineffective leaders tend to find fault with most people. Because they have a negative perception of others, they will always find what's wrong with you. And that sucks, man. You don't want a leader who's always going to find the bad in you. You don't want a leader who's always going to be talking about the things that you cannot do. Wouldn't you rather have a leader who can, highlight what you're good at, compliment you on things that you're great at? You don't want anybody with a negative perception. Okay. Number 6, lack of vision. Right. The Bible says for lack of vision, people perish. One telltale sign of weak leadership is a lack of vision for the business. Ineffective leaders fly by the seat of their pants and are reactive in the way that they do business, thereby creating a sense of confusion, chaos, and instability. We talked about that today with my wife, but that we got to write out where exactly we're going to go do business and not just go off the seat of our pants and, just react to certain situations and certain circumstances that cause us to change our way and not have a set, not stick to a set, instead of sticking to a set program for the day, right? But you can't have lack of vision. And let's see, number 7, poor personal discipline and structure. Ineffective leaders lack professional structure, right? So they often choose the path of the easy in their personal lives rather than choosing the hard work that produces results, right? And so I'm one of those types of people. I'll try to find the easy and the simple way to do things, but you can't sacrifice the results by taking the easy route. Sometimes you got to go the hard route, and it's okay to do that, right? It's okay to do that. It doesn't mean you're not coachable if you're going the hard route. Just know that, it's there's rewards in there, right? So I seem to be missing some of my notes, guys. I apologize. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it off with you. It says that they have people that don't have discipline and structure. Number 7 is poor discipline and poor personal discipline and structure. So ineffective leaders lack structure, so they often choose the path of easy in their personal lives rather than choosing the hard work that produces results. They have chaotic schedules. They are disorganized. They always seem to operate in a state of overwhelm or irritation. They have weak leaders that lack in discipline to structure their days, so that they don't have things written down. They don't know where they're going to be at later on in the afternoon. By every hour, they don't have a game plan. Weak leaders lack the discipline to structure their days, their thoughts, their actions. They lack the ability to structure and constantly have priorities out of order, right? So they constantly have things just out of order. They just go here and there wherever the wind blows. I started with negative relatives in business because at one time or another I've committed all these sins. Nice. So these are the 7 what do you call them? The 7 deadly sins of ineffective leaders. Right, so Oscar Wilde once said, the only difference between the saint and the sinner is that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. He is right. Wow. I've been disorganized and a poor communicator. I've been indecisive and have had lack of vision and so on. But it's important to identify, that's the reason why we're talking about it. You got to identify these deficits before you correct them, right? You got to know what's wrong with you so that you can fix it, so that you can correct it. And that's why we're reading this book, all right? So to figure out what's wrong with us and keeping us from manning up, you've got to take an honest stock of the places you're failing at, and then you can figure out how to work and pick yourself up in those areas. Sometimes it takes someone else to identify those spots for you, right? So we'll leave it there. The next part of the chapter we're going to read is seeing the weak spots, right? So what an awesome beginning to chapter 4 of fixing the leaks and knowing what the 7 sins are. The 7 deadly sins of weak and effective leaders. We're talking about becoming the best leader we possibly can and fixing the leaks so that we can lead people the right way, guys, and not have them fall through the cracks. Right, so just perfect, because this is a conversation we had with our coach the other day, and we're excited about growth. We're excited about becoming better leaders. We're excited about becoming effective leaders as best we can. So knowing the 7 cardinal sins, or the 7 sins that'll keep you, the 7 deadly sins of weak and ineffective leaders, guys. What a blessing to hear it today. If you're here, if you join us at any part of this podcast, I see people come in and out. God bless you guys. Come back again and listen in. And we're going to make some shorter versions of these videos to share with you all and get the content out a lot quicker. But until then, man, continue to work on yourself, continue to self-improve, pick up a book and read, learn something. Work on yourself. It'll really help throughout your daily tasks, throughout your work day, or just raising your family. This really does help. So, look out for the next chapter, guys. God bless you all. Be blessed until next time. See ya.